Hello everybody and welcome to Chef Glen's Kitchen, where you can do it. Today we're going to talk about fats, oils and vinegars and the different uses in the different areas of the kitchen. Before we get on to any of those specifics, I'm going to highly suggest that you keep clarified butter in your fridge for cooking. You don't use it anywhere else, a little bit in the bake shop, but mostly in the hot kitchen for cooking. Clarified butter. I've got a pound of butter that I simmered for 3 or 4 minutes here, and I've just turned the heat off. We're just going to let it sit. And what clarifying butter does is it takes out the water and the milk solids that are in the butter that reduce the butter's capability when cooking on higher heats. So we'll get back to that in a few minutes. Let's talk about oils. Of course, the most commonly used oil anywhere is a vegetable-based oil: sunflower, safflower, corn oil, all sorts of different extracts. Universal, used everywhere, little to no taste whatsoever, but not necessarily going to help you with the overall flavor and things. We have olive oil. This is a bottle of virgin olive oil, extra virgin, olive oil, and that is a very strong flavored oil. Can be used in the hot kitchen, the cold kitchen. What extra virgin means is that the oils were extracted using a first cold press, no heat. Any subsequent presses after that reduces the quality and the flavor and the color. And they use heat, and they can go many different stages, which would bring us to extra light flavor olive oil. A little healthier than using a vegetable oil, and a lot less mild from the olive oil flavor itself. Then we have nut oils. I have some sesame oil here, but there are other types of walnut oils and peanut oils and so on and so on. They're not used as extensively, but they certainly add nice flavors when it comes to trying to get a little bit different. Instead of using the same oil all the time, you would have different options. Okay, so let's talk about oils and fats and vinegars in the hot kitchen. The two main things about selecting a fat for your hot kitchen are the smoking point, and what that means is when you have a frying pan or a pot, you put your fat in that pot. Once it gets to a certain point, it's going to start smoking and the flavor is instantly changed, and so are some of its capabilities. Secondly, you're going to think about flavor. Depending on what type of flavor you're trying to add to the dish that you're making, you could go as plain as a vegetable oil, you could use the clarified butter, or you could get a little stronger and go with olive oils or nut oils. In the cold kitchen, your number one thing is for flavor. You're making salad dressings, marinades, things like that. At one time, there was only one oil in the kitchen and 2 or 3 vinegars: white, cider, malt. Today, there are all sorts of different vinegars out there, different oils out there. You can get much more creative in the cold kitchen. In the bake shop, fats and oils provide a lot of different things. They provide moisture. They provide flavor if you're putting the flavorful one in. In a lot of ingredients, it's a leavening agent. As it's being baked, the product, the oils turn to steam and they help the bread dough, the cake dough, whatever it is that you're baking, rise. And they also add stability. Very hard in the bake shop is using butter. In professional bake shops today, they have all sorts of man-made fats that do specific jobs that were not around way back when, and butter was your only option. Today, at least in the professional world, there are a lot more sophisticated fats. Now, the last fat I'm going to talk about is margarine. How many times have you put a frying pan on, got the pan hot, too hot, you've put some margarine in and it goes bubble, 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 and it burns, and you got to wipe it out and start all over again. That's because the second ingredient of margarine is water. When you put that margarine into the frying pan and it's hot and it bubbles, that is water that is instantly evaporating, which is only leaving behind fat solids that are going to burn in an instant, and if you cook in it, you're definitely going to taste it. Not necessarily a good result is what you're looking for. Okay, so let's get to our clarified butter. Okay, for the clarified butter, this is probably the easiest way for you to do it at home. After you've let your butter sit for a while, it's not bubbling anymore, of course, You can see that the white at the top had become somewhat coagulated. Now we're going to try and remove as much of that as we can, and then we're going to get the sandwich, which is the good butter that's right in the middle, and then we're going to have some other stuff that we have to deal with at the end. If you have a little strainer, I find this is the easiest way to go. I'll show you with just a spoon there as well. But I'm just going to take the strainer, I'm going to leave behind the nice yellowy parts behind, and I'm just going to get the solids out. If you don't have a little strainer, you can use a serving spoon with holes in it, and just go around, and you can see below the surface there is the good stuff. That's what we want to end up with when we're all said and done. Now I'm rushing this a little bit. You can take a little bit longer time. But I'm just going to remove what I can that's right on the surface. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to pour as much of the good stuff. There'll be a little bit left of the milk solids there that you can see. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a ladle and I'm going to dip it in the butter, just taking the good stuff off the top. It's okay to get 10-15% of the byproduct in there, the salt and the milk solids. Once you do this, and I'm going to fast forward. Okay, so I've got the majority of the butter that will come without more than 10 or 15% of the waste. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take what's left and I'm going to pour it into a glass, and I'm going to put this in the fridge. And as most of you know, fats will float on the surface. So what you end up with, you will end up with this much clarified butter. This is what we got off the first. After this sits in the fridge for 24 hours, you're going to end up with this. The last remaining butter, the good butter, is on the top, and the milk solids are all down at the bottom, and all you need to do is just scrape that good butter off and put it back in there, and you're good to go. So that is clarifying butter. I highly recommend you keep some. It will last forever in the fridge. Do a few pounds at a time, put it in containers, throw it in the back corner, and your cooking will be much better. Let's talk about vinegars. Plain white. I have a nice balsamic here. I have a cider. I've got a raspberry, and I've got a rice. Before we get into the details, where do we use them? How do we use them? In the hot kitchen, they're used for marinades. The acid is also used as a tenderizer. Combined with the marinade, will tenderize many, many meats. The acid breaks down the tough tissue in the meats. And in the cold kitchen, of course, they're used everywhere. In the bake shop, they actually do a number of things as well. One is they react with baking soda to create carbon dioxide to start a leavening or lifting process in your baking, cookies, bread, muffins, whatever it may be. Baking soda by itself won't do a thing unless an acid is somewhere in the recipe. It might not be a vinegar, it could be a cream of tartar, which is an acid. And that is what's going to get, once moisture hits that, that'll get the rising action happening. But it also turns to steam like fat and helps to rise things as well. Of course, its most predominant use is in the cold kitchen for salad dressings, marinades, and so on. The white vinegar is plain and boring. Fish and chips, not a whole lot other, but it does have many useful values. Balsamic, very distinct. Nowadays, very common to get a plate with an oil and a balsamic, sometimes an olive oil green. That's two dominating flavors. You just dip your bread in, delicious. It's all used in lots of different salad dressings nowadays. The old days, the ratio used to be 3 parts oil, which, as I said, mostly was sunflower-based safflower corn oils, and a white vinegar, and the flavors came from everything else. But now we actually flavor our salad dressings with our oils and our vinegars. Cider vinegar, very popular, very low acidic. It's nowhere near as strong as the white. Raspberry vinegar just has a hint of raspberry, but it's very nice, very refreshing. Summer salads. Rice vinegar a little stronger, of course using a lot of different Asian cold kitchens, but it does have a very nice flavor. One last thing I would like to show you about vinegar and fresh herbs. If you grow your fresh herbs and you find that you can't utilize them fast enough, some of the fresh herbs, they just grow like crazy. There's a really good way to make use of it. And here's what you do. A little glass jar. Here I have some thyme leaves. I don't grow herbs here. I did when I was younger, much too much work for me now. Take this. This is just a pot of vinegar, plain white distilled vinegar. I just brought it to a boil, turn the heat off, let it be for a few minutes. Gonna pour that into the jar. Do this with any herb you want. You're gonna have 10 different vinegars in your fridge in a week. Put the lid on, get a little white sticker, thyme vinegar, put the date on it, put it in your fridge. Now you just added, over in the flavor category, another potential flavor to add. It's also, you can use that in the hot kitchen as well, especially on vegetables that you're gonna barbecue. Make your own herbed oil. It's delicious, works really well. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on fats, oils, and vinegars and how to use them and where to use them in the kitchen. Thanks for watching Chef Glen's Kitchen, and until next time, happy cooking!